Yael also coming from Israel and from the Bar-Ilan University from Ramadan. So I would like to ask you to.
Okay, first of all, if I have to stop, so please let me know a few minutes before.
Okay, I will take 5 minutes before.
Okay, so thank you for this invitation. I will talk today about slavery and Judaism. Okay, so in the ancient times, slavery was a jus gentium, a customary law accepted by all the societies. Greek used slaves, Roman used slaves, and also the society according to the Bible. In the 19th century, scholars start to study slavery as a part of the universal atmosphere of slavery abolition. So rabbis and Jewish historians like Moses Milsiner in America or Sadok Kahana in France, they used slavery as an apologetic target, and they concluded that Jewish owners treated slaves with more compassion than the other owners, because the Bible and the Talmud had humanistic rules about slavery. However, in the 20th century, scholars such as Salman Zekling or Ephraim Yorbach examined Jewish slave ownership practices more critically, and their historical accounts generally conclude that Jews did permanently own slaves, and that Jewish slave owners were no more compassionate than other slave owners in the antiquity. Actually, all the studies I mentioned now, including this one, this is a very modern one, they are based on two elements. The first element is the extensive set of laws on slavery according to the Talmud. And when I say Talmud, I mean the Jewish literature of the 5th century. Okay? And the second element is the Roman rules about Jewish slave ownerships, and especially the prohibition to circumcise slaves as a Jewish custom. We know that after the 2nd and 3rd century, Roman rules didn't permit the Jewish people to circumcise their slaves, so that means that they used to do that. The Jewish people used to circumcise their slaves. Now, in this presentation, I will put aside these two elements, I mean the Roman laws and the Talmudic laws, and I want to focus on papyrus materials from Persian and Hellenistic times. I will give you proofs that slaves were seen as an essential part of the Jewish household, and that Jewish people participated to the slave trade. My research field of interest is to understand if religious and biblical laws on slavery on slavery were still preserved and observed by Jewish people in the ancient time, or maybe the Jewish people preferred to adopt stranger customs like the Greek laws and later the Roman laws about slavery. Before I will start with the material, the document material, the papyri, I would like to summarize several points on slavery biblical laws. Okay, so the Hebrew Bible contains two sets of rules governing slaves. The first one is for the Hebrew slaves, and the other one for the non-Hebrew slaves. I mean that all the regulation, according to the Bible, is based on these distinctions: the Hebrew slaves and the non-Hebrew slaves. The main source of the non-Hebrew slaves, the main source of the non-Hebrew slaves were prisoners of war. Hebrew slaves, in contrast to non-Hebrew slaves, became slaves because of the extreme poverty in which this case they could sell themselves to another man, or because inability to pay a debt. Okay, so we have actually two kinds of slavery according to the Bible. If a man was a very, very poor man, he could sell himself to another man, or because he couldn't pay a debt. And this is the only cases we are in the Bible. The Bible British laws about manumission. Non-Hebrew cells could be owned permanently. It was a slave for perpetuity, and bequeathed to other children, whereas Hebrew slaves were treated as servants and were released after 6 years of service or the occurrence of a jubilee year. Now, let's start with the material papyri. In the 5th century BCE, a colony of Jewish soldiers protected the interests of the Persian Empire in the island of Elephantine. Elephantine is a southern border of Egypt. This colony has transmitted to posterity archives in Aramaic language. The Aramaic language is the lingua franca of all the Jewish people in this area, in the Persian time and maybe also in the Hellenistic times. Okay, so we know that the discovery of these archives and the publication of this discovery in the 1st century decade of the 20th century caused a sensation in learned cycle because they provide the earliest documentation for the political, economic, social, and religious of a Jewish community outside the land of Israel. I want please to pay special attention to the temple that the Jewish community in Elephantine possessed. They possessed a temple, and this temple was dedicated to the God of the Jewish community, the God Yael. Okay? I will mention that later. This is why it was very important for me to mention that here now, because we will use that later. Now, we know also that this community in Elephantine, they possessed slaves. And in all the papyri of the Elephantine archives, the slaves known by their matronymic names, the name after the mother, and it was likely that they were born as slaves and from non-free mother. Okay, they were born as slaves and no free-born citizen. Okay. Now, this slide, this one is a part of a document describing the apportionment of a slave in the Jewish community in Elephantine. Now, as you can see here, the slave owner, the name of the slave owner was inscribed on the slave right arm as a mark of possession. I mean, slaves, like animals, may have been marked simply because they were chattels, and this mark did identify the owners in case the slaves fled. This papyrus is very special because actually we can see 2 marks. The first mark is the mark of the name owners. You can see Miftachaya. Miftachaya was the name of the owner of the slave, so there is her name on the slave body. But in this case, this is very special, we can see a very small letter, the letter Yud, branded also on the slave body. So the question is, why do we need 2 marks of possession in the same slave body? What was the other mark of possession? What is the Yud? Okay, this one we can understand because this is a mark of possession. But why do we need another one? Okay. Some scholars compare this mark to the biblical verse in the book of Isaiah. I'm very sorry, the computer doesn't read the Hebrew characters, okay? So, but this is the translation. Okay, so some scholars compare this mark with this verse, and they concluded that the letter Yud, designs the beginning of the name of God, Yael. So this slave question belonged to the Yael temple. He was an Hieroglyphos. Okay? I propose something else. We know that the Jewish settlement in Elephantine, they have a special name. They call themselves Chayla Yehudai. So maybe the letter Yud can be the beginning of the Jewish name of this settlement, the Yehudai. So it can be also that the 2 marks of possession, one was for the name of the owner, and the other one was for the name of the Jewish community. but this is only a supposition. Okay. Now, the next document is also, we know that Jewish people have knowledge about ancient rulers who claimed possession of the slaves by inscribing slaves' body with a special mark of ownership. For example, to cite an example close to the world of Judaism and the world of the Greek culture, the first book of Maccabees, you can see the sentence here on the slide. So this book of Maccabees reports that the Hellenistic ruler Ptolemy Philopator, he was Ptolemy the second Ptolemy, and he ordered and he violently shaped the mark of Dionysus, the Greek god, branded on Jews' body as the mark of their slavery social status. Now, to conclude about branded bodies and Jewish ownership, I would like to suggest slave circumcision by Jewish owners to be identified as a possession mark like a brand or a tattoo. Okay, in my opinion, the circumcision that the Jewish people practiced, the origin of the circumcision was a mark of possession. Okay, now let's, we have time, yes? We have time for another slide, okay? So, we have also a slide from the 5th century. The Samaria papyri, they represent legal documents of a deed of slave sales. So actually they offer a very limited information regarding everyday life because it was only documents, legal documents and contracts. The papyrus records the name of the slaves. Okay, the name of the slave, this is a part of the papyrus. So you can see the name of the slave. The name of the slave was Yehochanan. Yehochanan, this is the name of the slave. We know also that he was the son of another man called Selah. We know the name of the seller. We know the name, okay, Yeonur is the name of the seller, and the name of the buyer, Hananiah. We know also the price of the slave. And in this kind of contract, we have a very long list of witnesses because in this case, in this kind of transactions, we need a lot of witnesses. Okay. Okay. So now I would like to focus on 3 aspects on the papyrus descriptions. First, all the slaves mentioned in Samaria papyri, as exactly the one you can see here. Okay, they have genealogy according their father. The genealogy in slave sales was very rare in ancient times, and some scholars propose that, that the slaves in question may have been free-born citizens and were reduced to slavery, maybe by poverty. You remember, okay, that they could sell themselves to another man because they wanted to survive, okay, actually. So, it could be that this kind of slaves were born as free-born citizens and they reduced to slavery later because of poverty. The second aspect focused on onomastics. Please pay attention. All the names in this papyrus and in all the papyri from Samaria are all Hebrew names or theophoric names, included the name of the God of Israel. So this indicates that the slaves, the buyers, the sellers are connected with the biblical tradition. This case, this special case of sale, was totally in contradiction with biblical rules. Because if the Holy Scriptures accepted and permitted slavery, they prohibited the sale of an Hebrew man or a man who was connected with the biblical with the biblical tradition, to another man who was connected with the same tradition. So this case, this sale was in totally contradiction with the biblical tradition. The last aspect that I want to present in this slide is the use of a technical Aramaic formula, le alma, okay, le alma, Okay, that this is Arabic. Okay, so the lemma is for perpetuity. So it was an ownership in perpetuity, a slave for life. And this formula indicates that the people of Samaria, who were ruled by biblical laws, didn't respect this kind of laws anymore. I remind you that according to the biblical tradition, an Hebrew man was allowed to owe another Hebrew man, but only for 6 years. And after 6 years, he has to release his slave. So this kind of contract was in total contradiction with the basic biblical rule. Okay? Okay, then maybe I'll represent one slide. Sorry, I have no time. Maybe I'll represent this one. This one is a cell of, this is a papyrus for another archive. And I will talk about this one. This one belonged to the Zeno archive. Do you know something? The Zeno archive. Zeno, okay, was discovered in Egypt, okay, in Fayum. And we have a lot of information about the relationships between the Greek in Egypt and the Jewish people in the same times in the land of Israel. And this is only a part of a letter that Tobias he was a Jew, and he sent this letter to Apollonius. Apollonius was the Diocates of the Ptolemy II, and by this letter, Tobias informs Apollonius that he has sent a gift of 4 young slaves and 1 anak. And actually, you can see only one column of this papyrus. This is a very large papyrus, and we have 4 columns with exactly the same description. So we have the name of the boy, and we have the age of the boy, and we have the description, a very special description of skin, of eyes, of hair. And the very special mention is that the bottom of each column, okay, is circumcised or not circumcised. Okay. I believe that this mention I propose actually that this mention, the circumcised or not circumcised, informs us some information about the function of these slaves. And I believe actually that these slaves were connected to the temple in Egypt, because you know that in the temple of Egypt, they used to circumcise not only the priests, but everyone who wants to serve in this kind of a temple. So I believe that the function of the slaves was actually connected to the temple of Egypt. Okay. Now I would like to conclude. I'm so sorry that I have no time for all the slides, but this is a very interesting subject, really. Okay. So I would like to conclude the presentation and say that papyri and other testimony prove that in the Persian times and Hellenistic times, Jewish people not only used and owned slaves, but they also bought and sold them. My research suggests that Jewish people didn't respect biblical regulation on slavery, but they have been influenced by neighbor regulation, like Greek laws on slavery and later Roman laws on slavery. Okay, thank you very much.